This is Pastor Troy. We're getting ready to launch our next episode with you. And before we launch that episode, we got something real new that we couldn't put in the episode, but we want you to see it now. For the first time ever in season 3, we have an affiliate advertising partner, and that is slnt.com. And before we launch our show, in just a minute or so, we want to introduce you to them. You'll be finding out more about them this season. But right now, before we launch this incredible show, check out this advertisement from our new partners at slnt.com. You want to be a part of this, and then stay tuned for the next On the Dock with Pastor Troy and the gang. Here we go.
There are more than 8 billion phones in the world, a fact that threatens your privacy, security, and health. With Silent Pocket Faraday protection, you can regain control over your mobile devices. We get it. Privacy and security are inconvenient topics, and you may feel like you have nothing to hide, but the fact is that in the modern world, your laptop is never really off. Your phone emits a signal, even in airplane mode. And everything from your passport to your credit cards contains RFID, and all of it contains valuable private information that is easily exploited in the wrong hands. Silent Pocket offers a range of products you already use: wallets, bags, travel gear, laptop sleeves, key cases, but with the added protection of our patented Faraday technology, which turns your devices invisible and safe from the outside world. Many industries, from top business professionals to government officials, require the use of Faraday products for the day-to-day security of them and their staff. They understand that we are constantly at risk and take the necessary steps to prevent future attacks. We offer this elite technology to anyone that values their personal data, and we are proud to offer a premium range that fits seamlessly into your everyday life, providing security without looking like a tinfoil hat. As we learn to live with technology, Silent Pocket stands on the 3 pillars of privacy, security, and health. Our goal is to provide harmony with mobile technology without risking our most valuable information. We hope you'll trust us to help you do the same.
And you're with Pastor Troy here on the doc.org, dropping episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. We've been doing that now. We're in season 3. Check that out every Tuesday and Thursday. Something new's coming your way. We're all about conversations around this cottonwood table that will propel you out of these seats. This beautiful picture that my daughter drew, Megan, she's an artist, out of the shallows and out of that pass into the deep, and that lighthouse, the hope of Christ, will keep you safe out there. Matter of fact, if you let the old captain be your captain, the old ship of Zion, that's an old gospel song, old ship of Zion. Let him guide you out there. You can do amazing things for God. We're going to tell you a little bit more about the show, but we're in studio with some people that have really let Jesus captain their lives to do amazing things. So you're here for a good episode, part 3 of it. Go to YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. You can find those other 2 episodes in this series we're in today. You can find our whole last 2 seasons and go back and start in the beginning of season 3. Google Play, Facebook, Roku, Rumble, Sermonet are our auxiliary channels, but go to YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes first. And Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Telegram, and Gather are our social media sites. Sound like that plane's bombing us outside, doesn't it? That's the first time I've heard an airplane go over through my headset. Man, that must be that new big Contour airline plane or something. I don't know. Yeah, Airbus. Gosh. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Telegram, Getter. Let us know if you heard the airplane buzz our church. We're at the end of a runway, this church is. We're getting bigger planes out here. The Chicago planes are bigger than
Chicago.
Cape Air is just like, it's like 5 o'clock Charlie on MASH. But these Contour Airlines, a big plane. It hits our house every night.
Military stuff.
Yeah, every now and then you get some made here. Go check us out. We don't like you to gripe on our social media. We like to hear testimonies and conversations, but if the airline stuff bothered you, gripe about Donna. Donna's our tech today. She let it go through the mic. No, Donna's here. She has no camera. She can't defend herself on microphone. She's over there in isolation and silence. And if you hit subscribe, like, notify, then YouTube likes us better. They'll give us, maybe sometimes they'll monetize us. Hey, if not, in the meantime, go to my Patreon. It's our site, Patreon is a application where you, as a non-for-profit organization, can they'll help you monetize and do donations. And so On the Dock with Pastor Troy is on my Patreon. Download the app with your Google or your Android or your iPhone, and you can look up On the Dock and you can find out how to be a part. There's 4 levels of partnership, 3 levels of sponsorship. I like it. You got the lower third up there. I like that. We got 4 levels of partnership, 5, 10, I got to go look at it. 5, 10, 20, $50 a month. You can support what we're doing, bringing in our guests and different things, and getting Donna a microphone and her own camera. We normally have one for her, but we're at 4 guests. We're maxed out. So we need a board that can hold like 6 microphones, because we've got some stuff later this season. We have another studio to this side, and we're gonna have some stuff. We're gonna have like 6, 7 people in here. It's gonna be like a cage match, but we got to get a few more microphones to do a cage match, maybe another camera too. Show us that one camera that's the old camera. Which it would be our See that crappy camera? No, you gotta look up here, right here, Mike, out here. See, this is our season 1 camera. Okay, show them our season 2 cameras. Boom. Wow, so these are this is what we did the whole season 1 with. I mean, I can't believe anybody would even look at me like that. I'm sorry. See that? But we've been letting Donna use that. So that's been the Donna cam. But today we have more guests, so we have it over here. And we need to get a better Donna cam. And then Donna got a light. We bought Donna a light finally. And then we need another Studio B cam. So help us out. Go to my Patreon, be a partner of the show, or you could be a sponsor. And a sponsor, we'll talk all about you. You know, we'll drink your product, Crown Brew here. We'll put a cup on the table instead of my On the Dock cup. And we maybe even do a show about you. We'd love to have you go check that out. And we just got picked up as an affiliate of SLNT. Go check out the Faraday bags and reclaim your right to disconnect. I hope you saw that promo that we did on that. We also have that product code in our notes of the show, slnt.com/discount/OTD, or you can just go to slnt.com. If you put in OTD at the end of the code, you're going to get a lot cheaper price because you get a discount because you put in OTD, and you're going to get some shipping discounts and all kinds of special things will pop up. So go check that out. Go to onthedock.org. You can find all of our links to all of our platforms. You can find a link to my Patreon and a link to how to buy your own Faraday bags. And hopefully you'll find that. info@onthedock.org is our email. You can get questions answered and all these things. I'm on studio set, and we've got our co-host back. Mother Beth is back. We got rid of the bearded Beth.
Bearded?
Yeah, in the first episode when she's filling in, I said, Dan's filling in for Mother Beth. She put your lower third in. Yeah, she put your lower third in. So we decided that his hair was here, and so he's the bearded Beth.
Oh, okay.
So now you've shaved and you've got your hair fixed.
She was.
Your hair looks marvelous. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Telegram, Getter. Let us know how Mother Beth's hair looks today. She looks great. Looks beautiful. Got the nails done last week. Got the hair ready to go. We're ready for the holiday season. She wasn't here for the first 2 episodes because she was not moving her Christmas haircut appointment. I dated this episode again. She's not moving her haircut appointment, even for you, Mike or Crystal. Okay. I just found out that
worth it.
Well, the beautician ladies, the ladies, they get serious about their haircut schedules. You know, at the holidays, it's like, she told me she had to get like 2 months ago. Normally she'd get in to see this woman anytime. And now all of a sudden it's like, you better get it now or you don't get in. You have to go in the new year looking like a hag, you know. No. So, it's true.
I'm getting a perm on the 30th of December, but one of my coworkers is actually doing it because she's a beautician along with working for Take Action Today. So
that's a good deal for you.
You've got a good connection.
You've got a good connection. So we got Donna over in the booth on tech. You can't see her today, but she is writing us up and telling me stuff on social media. Yeah, she's using Post-it note social media, but it is social media of prehistoric origin. Take Action Today, taking it to the street spotlight. They're here in episode 3 today. We're going to talk about challenges and next moves. We're going to kind of summarize up some of their stuff and take a look at it. So we're going to be looking at Thurman Ministry here. And on the set here for this episode, got Mike Tyson, the executive director and founder. Again, Mike, you've done a great job in these episodes. Really been great to have you today. Crystal, you were here with us in episode 2, and you're here for the part 3, and you're the director of operations. They told me when you got here that you wouldn't hardly talk at all, that you wouldn't be able to, but you were fantastic. They underrated you so much.
Yeah, normally if Mike and I are in the same room, we have to kind of try to, okay, he gave me the half a second, so that's my chance to jump in.
Yeah, and Dan co-hosted the first 2 episodes, and Dan's got huge connection to them. So we're going to get in that next episode. He also goes to church here. And so that's kind of how I've got connected to these guys. So we're going to feature that next. But what's cool is Dan can talk too. You get Dan a mic. Three of you guys with a mic were dangerous. I mean, that's the first time I've been called down by our producer and saying like, you're at 55, because 45 is our goal. We never hit that. But we kind of like 55, we're like cutting bait. And we have gone to 65. Don't get me wrong.
And of course, you didn't add to that at all.
No, I couldn't get a word in edgewise. I told Dan didn't talk a lot in the first episode. And in the hall, I said, dude, you got to grab the mic like you own it. I said, it's like a ball, fumble. You got to get it, Just punch me out of the way.
That's why I'm glad I'm on this side, because I waited.
Yeah.
Same with him. I was watching. I was like, now's my chance.
Yeah, you just got to jump in. You just got to weigh in. Yeah. And Mike's not scared of that at all, so he can handle it.
That's right.
No, you did a great job. You guys are fantastic, and what you're doing is great. Now, I got 2 follow-up questions from our social media work here in my notebook, and I want to answer these before we do the summary, and then we'll get into challenges and moves. Okay, there are a lot of people out there. Go watch part 1 and part 2. Fantastic. Okay. Crystal, Mike, I'm going to give this to you both. And I know if Dan was here, he would do this, but I know that Donna, all of us, we all have church backgrounds, whether it be Catholic background. You were raised Catholic, right? Okay. I was raised Presbyterian, nothing. And then I was a Methodist pastor, and now I'm a non-denom Wesleyan pastor still, but everybody has a different background. Some of the worst wounds out there are the church wounds, are the Christian wounds, the wounds of so-and-so brother, so-and-so sister, sexual molestation, abuse, power trips, and some of it just horrible stuff. I mean, horrible stuff. We were opening up I'm a church planner. I've planted multiple churches. We were planning our very first church in Highland, Illinois back in circa 90. And the week that our first service was starting, the front page of the paper, we bought this whole thing about come join Highland Hope for their first church service launching in Highland. And the next article below the page, United Methodist pastor, community over, being arrested for molestation of children. He's probably done it in about the last 5 places he's been. How do you like that? United Methodist Church starting, United Methodist preacher arrested. Same page. I wanted to climb in a hole because now they associate the two of us together. And I just think about how long that went on, how many people were damaged, and how many people will turn to other things to medicate because should have been a safe and a healing place. They were abused. Church has been used as a power control for a lot of people for a long time. So you run into people, I assume, that have deep church wounds. What do you do as a faith-based 501c3 non-for-profit? I know you will take people, we've clearly talked about, you'll take people where they are without knowing Christ at all, and you'll walk them through a process, and that process is going to let them see people who Christ has touched, and they can decide for themselves, right? Sure. Okay. What are you going to do about people that part of their recovery is massive PTSD from the church? Because it could be people that were molested, but it could also be PKs that saw what was done to their family, and they hate the church or worse. So how do you cope with those? Because I think if you're faith-based, I don't think there's a way out of life to eternal life without Jesus. But if Jesus' people have been the source of your pain, how do you get past that pain to trust in Jesus again?
Yeah.
Well, I was like, okay, do I have that 2-second opening?
Yep, you go.
So basically, because of the fact that every day I ask God to use me as a vessel, since I'm still here and I've survived that old lifestyle, I ask him to use me as a vessel. And so if I'm going to trust that Jesus is actually going to use me, he is bringing people as he sees fit to our organization, right, to a friend who will tell a friend who tells a friend.
There's an opening.
Yes. Right. I have to believe that because we have trusted God so far, and he's growing the organization and putting the word out to let people know that there is hope and there is faith. So once again, I feel like the more people that see the results, they have to believe that something is greater than us.
Yes. I always tell people, don't trust in preachers. Don't trust in anything other than your personal relationship with Christ. You should be able to look to leaders in Christ. You should. But the Pharisees are the ones who schemed to crucify Jesus. Yeah. The Sadducees were a part of that. It's always been the religious people that have schemed to get rid of community, personal relationship, a movement. Yeah. And Jesus was a movement. Take Action Today, you've defined in the first episode as a community, as a a recovery coaching. Jesus was a disciple maker. You're into making disciples that are recovering. So you've talked about community, mutuality. You've talked about recovery coaching and all that. And you said, I think you mentioned the opposite of addiction. You quoted Johann, how you say his last name? Hari. The opposite of addiction is connection. So if somebody's been disconnected by that, you're actually going to show them a real relationship with Christ. And that may take them time to trust because they would be skeptical. Yeah. But you know what? I think skepticism's okay. Yeah.
Well, and hopefully just from the minute they walk into one of our centers, they already can feel that, like, how can I help you? You know, we had someone actually reach out to us on our phone line, and for some reason they said, we'd like to come and wash a load of clothes. And we said, well, you can come up until 2:00. You know, we need some time for washer, dryer, and before our staff has to go home. And they said, I'm not a druggie. And I don't know why they felt the need to put that in the text message. And I was like, how do I even answer that? And I just said, well, we accept, our center is open and welcome to anyone in the community. Feel free to just come in. Because it doesn't matter what you are or who you are. We're here to provide you that service.
I love that. Yeah. Now, if somebody is, a lot of times, like I mentioned in this last episode, they see somebody on alcohol, they see somebody on drugs. A lot of people see, well, they're down and out because they're on alcohol and drugs. And really, we find out a lot of times there's something much deeper under that. Could have been their church experience, could have been somebody violated, could be family, could be, you, as you shared in your testimony, multiple generations of other baggage projected onto you. And you've now picked that up and it's been transferred, using counseling language, transferred to you. And you can counter transfer that to your children.
Absolutely.
And next generation. Happens all the time. Okay. So a lot of people see the drug addict and think, well, they're in that shape. They're homeless because they're drug addict. But as you shared, you could be homeless way before you're a drug addict. You just began to look for what you can get to find relief. And you find that. Beth didn't get to hear this in part one, but he gave the example of, what do you call it? The dual rats. What was that?
Park.
The rat park. Well, the first one was just the test of the two rats.
Yeah. It was
Explain that one more time.
It was a basic experiment done back in the 50s that basically explained behaviorism from a psychology, why people would become drug addicts.
This is powerful.
Yeah, so they took these rats and they put them in basically a sterile, almost lab type of environment, and they basically had two choices. One was a liquid nourishment, and then another one had liquid nourishment with a drug in it, cocaine or heroin. It was some typically thought of as super addictive substance. And what they found was that the rats preferred the water with the drugs in it, the substance in it. So this research experiment led to the foundation of a lot of the way we approach addiction now. But what somebody figured out during the 70s was they came along and figured out that the rats were in this sterile, plain, ordinary, boring life. So what they did was they recreated the experiment, but this time they put the rats in what they called Rat Park, where it had playgrounds, they could socialize in community.
They call it a rat paradise.
Yeah. So what they found was that the rats no longer chose the liquid nourishment with the drugs in it. They chose the regular water because all their needs were being met by their community.
Really?
Yes. So this has led to this gentleman, Johann Hari. He's got this TED Talk. It's Everything You Think You Know About Addiction is Wrong. And what he proposes is that the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. And that really this whole time we've been, it is. And this whole time we've been approaching substance use and drug addiction from the completely wrong perspective. Right. And it comes back to something that you're talking about similar here. When we talk about church hurt and when we talk about church trauma and people being hurt through the church, you know, at the end of the day, we're all in recovery from something.
Right.
As Christians, we know this as we're in recovery from sin.
Right.
You know, so
and it manifests itself in many ways.
Absolutely.
And really no one's worse than the other. It just seems, the church did it, but the church crucified Jesus. So, I mean,
absolutely.
you know, so sin takes many forms, but the key is to overcome it.
Right. So, and you talk about, I think we talked about it earlier about how people experience a lot of frustration working with people who experience chronic substance use and homelessness because we're so needy, you know, and we're used to, especially people from a faith-based background, they're used to being able to solve every problem with prayer.
Oh, yeah. Well, just a quick prayer and be fine.
Yes. But for some reason, substance use and a lot of these behavioral challenges defy that. You know, the problems progress. It seems like they don't get better with just prayer. And the thing about it,
Because there's new pathways and dopamine and the highs create new conflicts.
what we do is prayer is very effective. We know that.
It starts there, but it's not
does.
finished.
Yes, because we break those spiritual bondages, but that freedom has to be manifested in the physical world.
Right.
You know, and that's so hard for us to deal with because for a lot of clergy, for a lot of people, pastors, a lot of church leadership, the only thing we do to know how to do is pray.
Wow,
We don't know how to approach all these other issues. So at Take Action Today, we don't necessarily approach it as an addiction issue or as a substance use issue. We approach it as a holistic issue where we're addressing all of these things.
And rebuild
We
a
don't-
community around them.
Absolutely.
Right.
We don't only want you to get better from your substance use. We want you to get better with your job. We want you to get better in your relationships with your family. We want you to get better with God. You
Right.
know, because it's this holistic idea of
whole
recovery.
piece of
It's
it.
not just, hey, let's get them sober, because there's 10 other challenges that they have to deal with.
Right.
But
You know?
some churches actually make people feel guilty if
Yes.
if the prayer doesn't fix it.
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Because I know my mom dealt with depression her whole life.
Yes.
And she felt like she shouldn't be on it. Well, she didn't like being on them anyway because they always wanted to put you on tranquilizers back then. They didn't really know how to treat
Yeah.
depression. But as it progressed and they came up with better ways to treat it, she felt guilty for she wouldn't do that because she felt like
A lack of faith was
she
just
should be. It's a lack of faith that was causing her to
Yeah.
be depressed. That she should be able to overcome that on her own.
Absolutely.
You know. So
And that's
So a theory that I like to use is that because, like I said, we started to talk in the last episode about some of my religious acquaintances and their concept. Well, I got someone to come to my, Celebrate Recovery or my Next Steps group or whatever that is, and they never came back again. And for some people, that is they can't not ready to deal with the God issue. So I've said, refer them to me, let me work with them a little bit. Maybe if they get to another place, they'll be receptive to that, but maybe just not right.
But you
off
don't
the
have to
bat.
deal with that piece now. There's other pieces of the
Yes.
whole world. Holistically, you're dealing with
Right.
other challenges.
So,
right.
so if they're discouraged and they never come back there, they may die like that versus just saying, hey, if you're not ready for this, let me refer you somewhere else.
Right.
But I also personally believe, so like for my uncle, the one that I was raised with, he died in his alcoholism. And so maybe it wasn't until he got to heaven that he was actually cured of his alcoholism. For me, it wasn't a miraculous, hey, I woke up and I don't feel like using drugs anymore and I've
Right,
never used
right.
again.
Yeah.
So for me, God had to work on all these pieces to make me a whole person in him to then be of value to help someone else.
And I want to say something radical as a pastor here. I'm a pastor professionally. I need people to hear this. You can be on drugs and on alcohol as an addiction and still be a Christian that's saved.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think most people in their mind come from an old church background, think, oh no, they've fallen from grace. The Lord knows how He made you, and He knows your addictions and He knows your proclivities. I'm prone to diabetes. So some people aren't, some people are. Some of that's I'm fat. You could say, well, I deserve that, or no. Each of us are different. God knows my heart, and God knows what my struggles are. And you could be the thief on the cross and be saved. The thief on the cross was guilty.
Yeah.
He just threw himself on the mercy of Jesus.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how he got there, but all he knows is the guy in the middle said I could come. And because he really reached out, there was community. The other thief was in the same condition, deserved to be there, and rejected that. And he got to go. Free will implies a lot of things, but free will doesn't mean you're free of all your issues.
Well, exactly. But so, my sobriety date is June 12th, 2005.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last time I used a substance, but it took years to heal. And I am still being changed from glory to
Absolutely.
glory because I struggle with boundaries. I struggle with
Of course.
judging people sometimes because if they just read the email, then, everything would be okay. So I still have
And
my
this is
sins and
called
my struggles.
discipleship. It's the
Yes.
process.
But it is the process. But I also I'm not cured. I still go to my spiritual mentors.
Right.
My boss.
I had
I've got
lunch
a
with
vent.
my spiritual father yesterday.
I've got a vent. I told him today I have to vent, and then I'm going to ask you if how I worded this email is proper, because I'm not just representing myself. I'm representing Take Action Today, Recovery, the Lord. So I mean, I'm like, so I just need to vent about it first, and then tell me if this is proper or not. I still need to ask for help.
So we're
Well,
all
yeah,
in a
'cause
process.
You're still a
Monica.
human being.
Absolutely.
We all are.
I think one of the things that makes us different at Take Action Today and in peer support services is some of the things that you guys talk about with church hurt is a lot of judgment that happens and goes on.
Huge amounts.
We remove that judgment in what we do.
Right.
You know, we're not judging you based on anything that you've done, anything that you've said. We just want to help you. We just want to support you.
Right.
Whatever that may look like, whatever you want that to be, that's what we are going to be for you. You know, and it's a different place. It goes back to that power dynamic we talked about in, I think, the last episode, where it's not me from a place of superiority telling you what you need to do to get better. It's me looking you in the eye saying, I'm a person with these problems too, and this
Right.
is what I did to get better.
Yeah.
And as I said in the previous episode, Charles Spurgeon said, evangelism is one beggar telling another beggar where to find food. If you're attending a church and there is no grace for mistakes, you're in the wrong church.
Yeah.
Because they're following a different God. Our God was not a God of perfection. He gave the Jews 666 laws, which they couldn't pass because they said, we want to do it our way. We can't do it our way. We can only do it by the grace, mercy, and love of Christ. Absolutely. So slipping's not the unpardonable sin. The unpardonable sin is never trusting in Christ. So if you can trust in Christ in your frailty and be saved, and you can trust in Christ and slip and still be saved. There's a difference between, it's not the sin that sends you to hell. It's the rebellion against God that sends you to hell. The Bible says all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. The word sin is amaritano. It's not really sin. It's falling short. And as long as you're striving in the process toward, God knows your inclination. The Bible says, does your heart incline toward God? And I think as long as you're better today than yesterday, and you can take a step back and still be better than yesterday if you learn in the peer recovery process what tripped you, what caused that, you'll be
Yes.
stronger next time, right?
Yes, and that's what we use, what's called the recovery action plan, and there's a lot of different people call it a lot of different things, but since there's a lot of stigma and they're changing language now, it used to be called the relapse prevention plan. Now they're saying that's a little stigmatizing, so we call it the recovery action plan. That is we work with you on that. You decide. Let's just say, for instance, you say, I really think I need to work on getting a job before I work on getting an apartment. I'm safe where I'm staying at right now, so maybe I don't need housing and then a job. Maybe I need, you know what I mean? And once again, it's person-centered, so it is up to you. Now, if for some reason, in our view, it seems like it might be a little unrealistic, like you say it's safe there, but then you're telling me that the people you're staying with always fight and argue. Maybe you don't see it because you're just like, I have a roof over my head. We may use motivational interviewing to say something like, well, are you concerned at all that this is causing you to maybe not be as focused on looking for work because you're focused on that? So we try to find ways to just have you to see if your decision is good or bad and if you still want to move forward with it. So once again, it's about what you want, not what we think you need.
Right.
Let me get into your stuff. TakeActionToday.net. Go to their website. Check it out. They got a Facebook site. It's on the screen. Facebook.com/TAT.SO.IL. You can check that out and link to all their stuff. They've got a list of programs. I picked up at their gala an incredible brochure that just listed all kinds of things. Peer Recovery Support Program. I guess that's your root program. Is that where you started?
Sure.
So to get started, if I want a peer recovery support program, I've decided I want to quit drinking. I've decided I want to quit using drugs. I've even maybe started to deal with those things. Maybe I've come out of a program, but I got to put my life back together. Or I've just identified I need help. Yeah. How do I get to you to help me help me?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different access points that we rely upon. Typically a phone call, like a lot of people do. We take self-referrals, people walking into our resource centers. We also take referrals from other agencies.
That's good.
So the idea is to create as many access points as we can for people because people are all in different places and they all get there in different ways. So one of the first things that we'll do with an individual after they reach out to us, typically it's I need to get to treatment. They already have in their mind something that they need to do to start their process. So we'll meet with them. We'll perform a non-clinical screening and assessment on them. We screen for mental health, substance use, trauma, and suicide risk. And then we begin trying to address those challenges, predominantly by doing what we call removing barriers to recovery, which for some people that might be finding a bed space.
And that's kind of what you were just talking about. You're going to start assessing those factors around them. Okay.
So what we do is we first respond to the immediate need that they're experiencing, and it might be something like that. It might be the need.
It could be the highest threat or the highest.
Yeah, basically.
So a little triage.
Yep, a little bit of triage. So once we get them out of treatment, or maybe they're not at that level, maybe they just need some regular support. So we set them up with one of our peer recovery specialists. They'll set a regular schedule for meeting them. The peer specialist will sit down with them.
What's a normal frequency for something like that? Normal. I mean, I know everybody's different.
So our recovery support program is a 6 to 12 month long program. It's a phased program. So in the first phase, you might meet with a peer specialist once or twice a week, depending on what the person's needs.
Yep.
If a person needs to meet with somebody 5 days a week, that person's
more.
available for 5
That's
days
great.
a week. If they only want once a week, that's okay. After a couple months, and so what the peer specialist will do is sit down with them, help them identify their own goals, what they hope to achieve through recovery. Crystal mentioned motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is a very non-confrontational technique that's really about getting the other person to vocally verbalize what they want to do rather than you telling them, because it's a much more powerful thing when we audibly say that.
Right.
So they would do that. They would meet with them that first time, then start setting up a recovery action plan then to achieve those goals. Now they have something to look at every week when they get together and meet. Hey, are you doing this? Are you doing that? What can we do to help you get back on track? What are you doing? What new goals do we need to set? Things like that. After a couple of months, it might transition to meeting with them twice a month rather than once every week, and then eventually once a month, and then they might complete the program and receive a certificate from us. And then hopefully, if things are going really good, then we'll start recruiting them to come into our training programs, because it doesn't stop at completing our program. Now we want to see how far you can go. Because that's really where our strength is giving people purpose and meaning.
Can some of that purpose begin to be they're giving back into other people's lives?
Absolutely.
Because they're normally surrounded with another group of people that have been in the world with them.
Yeah.
And people are seeing them claw out or come out, and next thing you know, they've got grandkids, kids looking at them.
Yeah.
Family looking at friends, drinking buddies, their drug buddies.
Yeah.
Now they have a world behind them. So you're beginning to equip them to deal with that, or at least become to use what they've learned to help somebody else walk that direction?
Absolutely, because, we know this as Christians, that one of the greatest things we can do is serve our neighbors, right?
Newborn
Love our
Christians
neighbors.
will lead more people to Christ in their first year sometimes than people have been Christians their
Same
entire
thing with
life.
somebody in recovery. You catch somebody a year in recovery, they're just starting to get their legs. There is nobody more motivated
They'll bring more
to lead
people.
somebody else.
Nothing like one beggar finding another.
Yep.
It's a Spurgeon thing again. And one thing I've heard when you said in the first episode, you talked about recovery coaching. You defined it as that. And I was thinking so much when Dan was talking in episode 2 about the concept of coaching, that what you like about your program is you've got somebody coaching you that's been through your valley. And so when I played football, I coached football for 20 years, very successfully. My kids did well, played. And when I was playing line and defensive line, my coaches that coached me were former defensive lineman coaches. And on your defensive side, he was a defensive coordinator, at least played on the defensive side. So you when the coach was talking to you, you respected them because they had played the game, Every now and then you got a coach that never played. There's some dad that just volunteered. No, it didn't work. You needed to hear from somebody that had been hit before, and the more I hear you talk.
But that's that connection.
It's almost like a football coach.
It's relatable.
You're somebody that played, but now you're going to walk with other people as they learn to play the game you played and loved. And I hear a lot of football coaching. And as you meet with people, what we do as football coaches is we go watch film and we go back and say, what do we do wrong? What do we do right? How do we improve on that in the next game? Your technique here, you did this, or you had that, you opened yourself up to this here, and that's how you got hit. Sounds like the same thing spiritually and with your behavioral recovery.
And in keeping things realistic, though, there are people who come to us for services, and I'm going to do this, this, and this. And as you said, the sin nature and just falling short as humans, we get some people who have good intentions but don't always follow through on their plan or even on their appointments, or maybe they've had a slip and they're ashamed. even though we show them nothing but love and we don't scold them for that, we do get people, unfortunately, that have said, like, well, I stopped calling you because I had a slip and I just didn't know how to tell you,
The spirit is willing, but the flesh,
Flesh is weak. But,
Yes,
but let me say
yes.
this, and I preached about this,
But
like,
we keep calling those people still, too, though. Like, hey, hope you're okay. We probably
Right.
know what they're doing, but we still say, hey, you could still come back and have an appointment if you can.
I talked about this in a sermon like a few weeks ago, that our job as believers is to keep the light on. And when people leave the light, the prodigal father trained him up. And when the son went and spent all the money, the one thing in his despair, he remembered how he was raised, that it was better. And he went back just to be a servant. And he found out the father had been waiting the whole time for him to come home and graciously welcomed him back, didn't lecture him or shame him, but he brought him back in. And I told people, when our kids go off and they do wrong things, sometimes you have to draw a line as a parent and go, I'm not going to support you in that, but I'll be here when you're ready to come home. I'm not going to endorse that or help that, but I'll be here. We need to maintain the north, because the people you think of as maybe failing the program, they feel like they failed. They at least know where you are now. Yeah. And when they get to that farther point, they'll know where to come back to. Sure. So the son came back to the father because he had lived there and seen it. Yeah. He didn't understand it, but when he got deeper down, he did. Sometimes people are almost ready to get help because they've lost everybody, but they haven't decided themselves they need help.
Yeah. I can't understate how powerful the switching the focus from the goal to the process.
Yes, it's always happening.
Yes, because if we focus on the end goal, that's where we see failure. When we have expectations of what people can become, and when they don't achieve that, they have failed.
Yep.
But when the process, when the discipleship, the growth journey is the goal. That's the goal.
And
you cannot fail
You're right
at
on.
that.
You're right. And that's the exact same thing for coaching sports or football. Any coach that walks in and says, we're going to win the Super Bowl,
Yep.
you've already failed.
Yep.
Because you got to get through your next practice, and you got to win the preseason game, and then you got to get to your next game. And every Monday you start over in the process. And maybe the Super Bowl's 20 years from now, but it's a building process. And so you've got to treat
Maybe
it.
it's 40 years.
Right. But you want to improve your play. Your goal is the process. And I've never seen coaches that are bound for winning at the beginning of the season ever get there. You got to build it one game, one practice, and you practice to win.
Yeah.
And so the process, you'll win if you continue the process.
So do you think that maybe I should apply to be the coach of the Chargers?
I think you should. Yeah, the job is open.
They might be better off.
Okay,
might
so
be, yeah.
so the recovery, you have this. Okay, let's go on. You have the recovery resource centers, so they can go to these locations to do these meetings. Is that where most meetings occur? At the centers.
Most of so all of those places we mentioned that we have. So the Recovery Resource Center initiative is really our second thing after our recovery support program. And where this got started was we had these conversations back in 2020. We originally wanted to get into housing. We wanted to be able to provide people a safe space to live because, like I said, homeless gentleman passing was what motivated us.
Yeah.
But what we found out was that it's one thing to get somebody into a house. It's another thing to actually help them initiate and maintain recovery. And that many of our communities, if we went out right now and not right now, but 3 years ago, if we went out and opened up a sober living home in West Fraser, because I watched it happen, the ancillary support services are not present.
So you got to go up. You're having to go upstream a little bit. I got you.
So we backed up and we punted the ball. We said, all right, let's set the goal. Year 8, we're going to open up a 140-bed transitional housing facility. How do we get there?
But right now, our defense is going to have to play for a little while to build us up to that.
So the first thing that we had to do was we went around to everybody. Everybody said, who's going to do the work? Illinois is facing a huge behavioral health workforce shortage.
Huge.
They're predicting us to be about 3,000 behavioral health workers short by 2025.
And our daughter-in-law is a Christian counselor.
Yes.
There's so few of them. They just cry constantly because they're over.
They're overburdened.
She's turning everybody away.
Yes.
They're
She's got as many as she can
and they're
handle.
burnt out, and there's nobody else coming in.
So what happens in that situations is when people need mental health services and there's not enough resources, who gets the first services? Children, families, parents, the
Pregnant moms.
the people that are easier to work with.
Yeah.
But that 10% of people that are constantly struggling, constantly needing support, they're the ones that typically get excluded from services.
Absolutely. Yeah. So they're the least thought of out here. They're just like they're already marginalized, and then they're not even allowed back on the playing board.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we had to create a workforce. Who was going to do this work? That's why we turned to people with lived experience. We found a state certification where we could train people to become professionals, not be some fly-by-night coach that got got a certificate off the internet. We put people through an intensive 1-year training program that is probably
So in your
one of the-
center, you're also educating people to be the next counselors.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
So we needed a place to work. So that's how our resource centers got started.
So that's where you're doing your training for your peer counselors at
Yep.
different levels of counseling. Well, okay, drug courts. I didn't know there were drug courts.
Yeah.
I just thought there was judge and divorce court, I guess, and Judge Judy. But you've got. Well, tell me about the drug courts. They're prolific in our area. They're overloaded. It's its own world, isn't it?
yeah.
So drug court is an alternative to incarceration and filling their sentence. They need more funding as well. So a lot of people probably could benefit from it, but a lot of judges put forth a lot of their extra time and effort. But once again, it's just far and few in between. So, for instance, I'll use Williamson County, which is Judge Gill. So she saw the value as some of our staff. And advocacy is something else that we promote. We promote self-advocacy, but we also try to help people to advocate for themselves, because now, if I had just met you today, would you know that I used to be homeless and
No.
snorting, using crack cocaine? And okay, so if you advocate for yourself as a person in recovery, I'm not the drug addict. I'm the person in recovery. So if you introduce yourself that way, people will take you more serious. I'm confident and firm. I'm not that old person, and
They
I won't,
see the transition.
and I won't.
You're not what they thought
I'm
they
not
were.
going to be treated that
Right.
way any longer
Right.
because I'm not that old person.
Absolutely.
So anyhow, Judge Gill saw the benefit of letting us have a seat at the table based on other people who knew about some of our services. And so basically, success in drug court means that if you continue the drug court program, which is usually about 15 months, give or take, normally what happens is then they have this whole graduation ceremony as well and go back out into the community, and they don't have to finish serving their sentence any longer. You're a changed person. You're doing the next right thing. Unfortunately, if someone does fail, and fail means whatever the judge decides based on the laws and rules
They
currently
didn't show
in
up.
place.
They didn't do their covenant,
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. And basically, so then they usually the jury ends up saying that they have to serve the rest of their sentence. But so it's a real crucial process to be. If you've been chosen to be part of drug court, they've seen something special in you, and they feel.
So
you're
who
gonna
are they
benefit.
using in this area? Who are the
So-
primary providers helping them with the judge court?
So sometimes, the drug court table would be a table such as this.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have Judge Gill. You may have a probation officer, a state's attorney, possibly. You'll have a public defender, but they may even have a clinical counselor that they're working with, maybe through outpatient, through Centerstone or a Gateway. However, they've now said, take action today. We want you here because you're working with them. Your peer services are invaluable, and it is helping to support them when we can't be there, to provide services.
So I was at their gala recently, and I not only saw Judge Gill, but I saw judges from the other counties as well. They are enthusiastically excited about your partnership.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
glowing. I mean, the judges sit next to us, and they love you're making their jobs happy. Very happy.
So you think about what we always see with drug addicts and homeless people. We always see the bad behavior.
Right.
So now imagine you're a judge that all you do is see people on their worst days.
Yeah.
But then this group comes along, and they're those people you've seen on their worst days, but now you see them at their best days.
Yeah.
How can you not?
They look like parents as they watch the different groups
They,
get introduced.
they never see it.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great. Recovery, education, and reentry. Tell me a little bit about that piece of your pie there.
So, two of our peer specialists who started out with what's called Recovery Corps. Recovery Corps is a training program through AmeriCorps where Mike hired his first 2 employees. Recovery Corps actually provided the education hours that were needed. Mike provided the space through his nonprofit to let them do their direct service hours and do this peer coaching while they were training. So Paul, who is one of our peer recovery specialists, but now he's also in our CMHL, which is Community Mental Health Liaison, which I think is
That's
somewhere,
next.
somewhere on down the list. So him and Leanna were the only two peers at that time, and Mike was overseeing the organization. He literally did a lot of research, used some portions from when he was in treatment to say, this really helped me when I was in treatment, and basically came up with a curriculum. Sheriff Kyle Bacon was on board. He said, what we're doing obviously isn't good enough. We're willing to try it and see if this helps. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But what we're doing now isn't really helping. So he said, let's do a pilot program in here. It was a brief curriculum, basically educating the people that were incarcerated on that there is treatment available, there is help, there's peer services. When you get out, you can do peer services with us. Maybe we'll connect you and try to find you a safe place to stay, et cetera, et cetera. And the rest is history. It took off. And like I said, that is why they were also at the gala. And
So
were
you're
honored.
basically giving them a ramp to the community you want to build.
Yes.
And they can take it or not take it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So this is one of the most beautiful programs that we have, because almost all of our staff have been impacted by the justice system.
Yeah.
Many of them. I have a staff member right now that at the beginning of COVID was in Menard, was in the pit at Menard. Now he is going in the Franklin County Jail to serve in this program. And so when the program started, it was originally a 12-week program where we would bring people in a group who were in the jail. They would receive an hour-long group, an education class, training. They would also receive a homework assignment to work on during the week, and then they would get a 30-minute recovery coaching session with one of our staff for 12 weeks. We've now expanded that program to where it goes on every day, Monday through Friday in the jail. The jail administration is actually even considering setting a pod aside for a recovery pod.
I love it.
Where people in this jail can commit to a pathway of recovery, go into this environment where they're surrounded by other people who are committed to recovery and talking about recovery all the time, to where they're not just wasting their time sitting in jail, stewing on their past behavior, perhaps learning bad behaviors.
Right.
Now they get to go into a positive environment, that get to become healing, and they get resources.
You're getting
put in their
upstream now.
hands.
Upstream.
Absolutely.
They're coming out. They don't have to go back in the
Absolutely.
trash bag, living on the street. They're going to come out with a
Absolutely.
plan. I see what you're saying about going upstream. So that person coming out,
Yep.
if there was a transitional house for them,
Yes.
they're way ahead of the
Yes.
game.
So
Well,
what
and
we
some
have
of
to
those people have never been in a positive environment.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So and that's one thing that we can't forget about, and it's a part of another conversation that we started into earlier, is that the environment that a person lives in is so important. We've spent so much time talking about, back during the 80s, they came out with this study called the adverse childhood experiences. And they made the connection that a lot of these challenges are based in trauma that we experience as children. Abandonment by parents, abuse, poverty, any of these types of things contribute to our trauma. Well, what we're now starting to find out is how important that environment it is, because we're starting to call them adverse community environments or adverse community experiences. So like you say, many people have never been around people that talk in a positive manner. They've never been in an environment that's conducive to healing.
Right.
You know, when you're surrounded by people who have the same behavior that you just came out of, you keep getting the same bad advice from everybody.
Right.
So now they get to go into a place where they get loved on, they get poured into, not only by our staff, but by jail administration. The enemy
Yeah,
now
that's
comes in, and
unheard of.
it's a
That's-
whole different
yeah.
approach.
That's just amazing. Community mental health and substance use liaison. What does that mean? What kind of work are you doing there?
So if you look at any community assessment done around our region, two of the biggest things that they will point out that we need in our region for substance use and mental health is screening and assessment. The CMHL is our response portion of our program. Those people that, like I said, if there's a gentleman that's been sleeping in a tent, and somebody will call and let us know about that, we might go out there. Perhaps it's a homeless gentleman that's been sleeping in the door stoop of a town square, or it's that individual that just keeps getting arrested for being drunk. The cops don't know what
This
to
is
do
a little
with
bit
him.
interventional.
Yeah. Oh, it's 100%. 100%. So they respond, they perform an assessment and a screening, and then start getting them to care.
You can't
rather
really
than
make
taking
them
to
come
jail.
out, but you can be there to invite them regularly. Yeah. That's fantastic.
It's like deflection. So most of it's centered around people who interact with the justice system frequently. So we work closely with judges. That's why you saw so many judges there.
Yeah.
Because we're providing a service.
They're going to say, we're going
them
to give you a
that
chance maybe to go
nobody else
direct, but why don't you talk to them first and see if you can be assessed, and then if you get an agreement, then everybody's giving them ramps.
Yeah.
And this is somebody that helps them connect to that ramp.
So
But are they also somebody that's been in recovery themselves? So they're
Yes.
now a peer.
Yes.
So it's not just a judge telling you; it's saying, "Dude, take the hope."
Yep.
You know.
So take it out of a justice setting. Let's go to an emergency room where I've been an individual that's overdosed 3 times in the last 6 months.
Right.
So I go to that emergency room. How do you think those nurses and that emergency staff treat me?
Oh man.
You know, but now they can call a CMHL who can come to the emergency room and they can meet this individual with
And give them
compassion.
another way of hope other than Narcan.
Yep. And so now the nurses can go and do what their job is, which is dealing with everybody else. And now you have somebody from lived experience that can sit with that person and talk with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Begin helping them identify what they want to do.
And there's that connection again, that connection.
Yeah.
Yes, I do understand. I overdosed 12 times. Only miracle of God that I'm here right now. So yes, I do understand
Right.
that connection.
Right.
Safe Passage Program. What is that?
Somebody can turn themselves into various locations, typically law enforcement or police department, and instead of locking them up, they'll call us and we'll come and we'll begin helping that individual.
You'll help them through the process.
Yep.
And that shows they're already advocating for a better path.
Yep.
And the local authorities work with you
Yes.
because you're representing hope.
Yep.
And they know that there's already a process started by the fact they've reached out to you.
Yep.
They're beginning to take responsibility.
Yep.
Okay, that's
Now,
great.
they got to do so before they're arrested.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, but you can't get arrested and then be like, now I want help.
You,
But no.
it's got to be ahead of time. I'm
Yeah,
in trouble for this. I want you guys to help me get out of this, but I'm willing to go through a process to not be in this again.
Yeah.
So
And what
go
it's
ahead.
about is opening up access for people to be able to turn themselves into
You're getting
law
upstream
enforcement without
again.
going
You're
to
getting
jail.
upstream. You keep going upstream. One of these days we're going to get to that house, but you've got to get up
Yeah.
there a bit. Narcan and Illinois DOP initiative. Now, Narcan, if you need Narcan, you're in trouble. Narcan,
Well-
or unless you're coming out of anesthesia from surgery.
Well, and here's another thing about that advocacy. So most people hear Narcan, they think opiates, heroin addict. That's not me. I don't need it. However, you don't know if your child, grandchild, whatever
Picks up something.
Yeah, exactly. So Narcan is harmless. So if right now you found Narcan and you thought it was nasal spray and you ingested it, nothing's going to happen to you unless you're on opiates.
It only counteracts opioids.
Yes, and so we are educating the community to say it's not just for heroin addicts. What if mom or grandma, is on medication? Maybe she has dementia too. Maybe she forgot if she took a pill and now she's taking another pill. What if grandma was visiting and dropped a pill and the dog or the grandbaby found it? I've got Narcan on hand now. Like I said, harmless if nothing's happened. And we have gotten so many people to say, wow, I never thought about it that way. I'm only thinking like I don't have heroin in my house, so I don't
Right.
need this. I carry Narcan in my car constantly with me because how do I know that if one day I'm going through the grocery store parking lot and someone's just laying there passed out and everybody else just steps over them, because we know there are those people.
Right.
So, once again, maybe I use my Narcan. Maybe I tell someone else, would you mind calling 911? I'm not sure what's going on, but it's not going to hurt. Unless,
So you're helping
yeah.
get people aware of what it's for.
Yes.
Are you helping provide it to certain places or anything?
So that's where the DOP comes in. The DOP is part of Illinois' drug overdose prevention program. So a lot of people don't think that overdose is a severe problem, a significant problem within the rural communities, but it actually is. One of the things that I noticed 3 years ago when we got started, and I'm going to start into this not saying that's anything that Take Action has done specifically. It's been a result of a lot of actions. But where I live at in Franklin County had an overdose mortality 1.5 times the state and national averages.
High.
That means if you had an overdose in Franklin County, you were probably going to die.
Right.
You probably weren't going to get the help that you needed. Okay. That has come down. It's about half the rate that it was 3 years ago.
Wow.
And a lot of that is because we are putting so much Narcan out there everywhere. You go
Okay.
in some places and there's dispensing machines for it.
Well, how are you doing? I mean, I've always heard it's really expensive.
So that's where the DOT program, the state pays for it.
That's
Okay, so
fantastic.
the state
So
provides
they
it.
give it to us, and then we give it to everybody.
Do you have to do some training with people on how to use it or how to
so
apply
we
it?
do offer training. We do have an overdose awareness training. So you don't need any training to use
'Cause you
Narcan,
can't really hurt
because
somebody
you can't
with
hurt
it.
anybody.
Right.
You
Right,
just
right.
shoot it up their nose.
People don't realize
But
that
we
it's not
offer-
methadone. You know,
Right.
it's Narcan. It's a
Yeah.
counteractive to opioids.
Yeah.
Opiate affects a receptor in the brain. This counters that immediately.
Absolutely.
My dad's a surgeon.
Yeah.
They put you out. Anesthesia doctor says, wake him up. They give him Narcan.
Yeah.
It reverses the anesthesia,
Yep.
the fentanyl or whatever. It reverses it. But that's controlled. Many people, if you've had surgery, you may have been given Narcan to be woken up.
Yeah.
So here's something else too, is that so from our perspective, being there and having that lived experience, so my drug of choice was crack cocaine. But so now we have some people who are using methamphetamine saying, I don't really need to carry Narcan because I don't use an opiate, but they're now putting fentanyl in everything.
Everything.
Exactly.
Everything.
Xylazine.
Marijuana can be laced with
Yeah.
it. Everything.
You guys
Right.
heard of xylazine? Xylazine is an animal tranquilizer that, for each time we make 2 steps forward on, helping people to survive and get the hope and help that they need,
They come out
there's
with
something else,
yeah.
and but we know the enemy wants to kill and destroy.
Right.
So basically, we're saying, no, take the Narcan. I mean, like I said, we all got grandkids here now, so they've got marijuana gummy bears that look like
Right.
candy.
Yeah.
I mean, I might take a few myself,
Yeah.
The reason why we do this, the reason why we do a lot of our programs, one of the things that I identified early on was we've oftentimes point our finger up to the northern part of the state, saying you guys are sucking up all the resources. We
Right.
don't have them in
Tons
Southern
of it
Illinois.
going up there.
And that's a lot of truth. But what I have found out too is that the other side of that problem is that we don't have a mechanism in Southern Illinois that actually tells what's going on in our communities.
We're being left out.
Because when you don't have the behavioral and mental health providers, you don't have the people collecting the data.
There's no stats,
And
there's
then
no
you-
numbers.
Yep, and then you don't have people telling that story in an accurate way. So there are people up there allocating resources, making decisions that only have a very small, tiny glimpse of what it's like in a rural community in Southern Illinois.
Right.
So we collect a lot of this data. We collect all of our overdose, all of our. We don't collect personal information to share with the state, but we do collect all this data about what people are experiencing, and we send it upstream.
And then all of a sudden, more resources are coming. But the bigger
Yes.
part, and that'll be the wrap up here in just a second, is that as we suddenly gets more aware of the issue, there's more resources, but there's very few organizations standing up to actually be available to go to the
Yes.
front line and walk with people like
And
you're
that's
doing.
and that's the problem. That's why they don't have that information, because there aren't enough people down here collecting.
But
it
as
and
you
telling
put
it.
light on it and more resources become available,
Absolutely.
it's making so that leads to the Southern Illinois Recovery Network. Is that part of this process of building that team and awareness, getting more data, getting more information, more partnerships?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Southern Illinois Recovery Network is our collaborative effort between the lower 18 counties in Illinois, because we can't do everything ourselves. We don't want to do everything ourselves. We are already way too spread out. So the only other choice we have is to train other people and empower them to do the same work we're doing. So we actually encourage competition. That's what makes us different. We want to empower our competition to do the same job.
But
we're
that's
doing.
also going to bring more resources here.
Yep.
So there's more
So
awareness.
that's how we do
a
it as a
stronger
region.
coalition.
Right.
Yep.
Because we're not Chicago, but the 18 counties can start
Yep.
at least being heard.
Because what do we know? We know a strand made of 1 or 2 strings can be easily broken. But what happens when we add a third and a fourth and a fifth
Yes.
string?
Right.
It becomes unbreakable.
Right.
And we are much stronger as a region, as a community, than we are as separate individual entities.
So the last thing on the list, and we're going to come back to the last one next, but that leads to coalition building. You're always working to build partnerships. I'm the president of the Heron House of Hope board of directors. We started the feeding program here in Heron. John Steve, go watch the last show in season 2, the amazing Heron House of Hope, and we had John Steve on. And John co-hosted with us on an episode for this season as well. John's story is incredible. He came from prison, came from gangs to Chicago. I was the one who came back and hired him and started the process here. I left here 20 plus years before then, so it'd be 32 years ago, with nothing happening in that area. I came back 20 years later as a pastor back here again, and the pastors were still talking about the same problem of hungry and help, the things happening.
Yes.
And I said, you're kidding. And one of my colleagues that was there when I left, he looked at me and said, yes, Troy, we're talking about the exact same thing 20 years ago when you left. He said that. We were both junior pastors. And I said, dude, I said, we got to fix this. The last 2 communities I've been in, I helped start similar, the Highland Area Christian Service Ministry, helped start something like that in Waterloo, Illinois. I said, well, we can start something here. So that led to the Heron House Hope being launched, and I led that effort. And today, John Steve is our executive director. We fed almost 500,000 people, over 1,000 GEDs, all that. And our next phase is we just got a whole new building next door that equals our footprint. And our dream is to add a community wellness clinic, to do mobile clinics. Hopefully we can come out and partner at some of your places.
But it's funny that you say that, because we recently volunteered to serve some meals over there with John.
Yeah.
John said the prayer over our Walk for Recovery that we had last August. And so he said, hey, if you want to have some people come out during our lunchtime,
Absolutely.
maybe somebody, wants to sign up for your services that doesn't even still know, even without
Right.
the
That's right.
advocacy.
Well, we're going to get more intentional. What is the thrift store is going to be moved out to its own place next door, and the thrift room is going to become an educational, a wellness room, a place where you guys can come and do workshops and at least introductory things. Maybe you could put a recovery resource center in there someplace. And I'm already working with Mike to have you guys help us with the behavioral piece of what will be hopefully someday down a wellness gap clinic there. We're already talking about doing it as a mobile version. The county health officials in Williamson County have already supported us and endorsed us. The local emergency management people have already endorsed us and supported us. We've already got huge foundations here giving us money. And Mike and I have been conniving over lunch about how we can build this clinic and even an emergency shelter. And him and I really have a long-term dream. We'd both like to see some transitional housing here. So as we get to the inside of this coalition building, I mean, I just met him a couple weeks ago. We've already had lunch a couple times. We're doing a show together. That's cool.
Chicken wings are the food of social
That's
change.
right. And it's been fun to see it. And so what I bring is the Hands Hope Foundation's medical side to the Heron House of Hope's feeding program. And you add to that Take Action Today's ability to deal with the behavioral side of it. And you have a partnership that could begin emergency housing
You have
and
a
lead to
community.
transition. Yeah, we have a community.
And there's all those connections.
And paradise is starting to look a little better for the rats.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
right.
There's some hope there because
Yeah.
you're not stuck with only one choice or nothing.
Nope.
And I think our dream, openly is you'd like to see some recovery housing. You want to finally get to where God started you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to get upstream enough, get people well enough, both mentally, physically, and emotionally. And hopefully, even with the clinic, we can treat some of their issues, hypertension and diabetes, things that keep them from being able to hold a job because they just can't function. And we deal with the behavioral issues as well. And we begin to see a community get better. Will we fix everybody? Absolutely not. That's not our goal. Our goal is to give people at One Hope a chance, right? That's
right.
So here's what we're going to do is we wrap up this. We're not done with this series. We got a real surprise for you in episode 4. You're going to come back for that. You do not want to miss it. We're going to talk about real life testimonies. We're going to talk about from the water and death, almost certain death, to somebody that is in the leadership pathway for you in an amazing way. So we're going to meet a couple more of your staff people, and we're going to meet Dan and Rebecca Piles, part of your team, and we're going to hear their story and testimony. And they're going to dig into more about the peer counseling. Tell us a little bit more about that process of walking with people, because I mean, his story is real. And he's been a part of helping you guys lead other people.
So if
you know this as a pastor, you can't do anything without being surrounded by great people.
Absolutely.
Great people who are willing to step outside of themselves and contribute to something bigger
Right.
than themselves.
Right.
Yep.
And we have been blessed with so many of those that take action today.
Absolutely.
You know, people who there was something in their life that meant to destroy them. And now they're taking those experiences and using them to impact other people's lives.
Yep, and you cannot shut off that compassion. It's just sometimes we're in a meeting where most people, you hear the word meeting, you think, oh, another meeting. We get excited. 'cause we're
Opportunity.
like, opportunity.
Hope.
Yes,
Opportunity.
and we could do this, and we could do this, and we could help them, and like.
And
it's
that's
just,
the light.
And
That's
you
the
can
light.
see it at the
How many
gala.
people love their
You can
jobs?
see you can see it at the
could see
gala.
it at the
You can see it at the
gala
gala.
the
How
other
many
night.
people love their
Our
jobs?
Hands of Hope galas feel like that too, because people are getting to go do medical. They're seeing what their money's done to educate people overseas, or they've changed something here. When you give people real hope and they can see real proof and real
And they
production.
see that you're really doing
Genuine,
something that's
yeah.
making a difference. You know.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to help big time here, because we're going to have Dan and Rebecca in part 4. But before we get to part 4 of this series, I want to say this to you. Take Action Today would really like to get eventually to recovery housing. Heron House of Hope and the Hands Hope Foundation that I lead, we would really like to get to recovery housing and transitional housing. we've talked, we're going to collaborate. We believe, God, that there's somebody out there, whether you're in Franklin County or you're in Williamson County, whatever one of these southern counties, we believe somebody out there, you have influence, you own or connected with old nursing home, a hotel. I don't know. What we need is a place where we could put some apartments and some housing in a controlled setting and give people a place to have one step toward their own place. Right. Something in between a HUD house and there, something between an emergency shelter and the finish line. It may be a place for 6 months or 8 months or 9 months while they're in a program. We need you. In the Marion community, there's a place called the Lighthouse, and it is there for 30 days. They help people get into emergency housing. We need someplace like that for the broader part of Southern Illinois. We need someplace where they can partner with Take Action Today. They can be in peer counseling. They can be getting some medical care, and we can be helping them get toward the vision and hope and dream of having a life that they have that paradise.
Yeah. And
it's doable, but we need a place to work from. So if you're out there and you're interested in that, let me tell you right now, online, right there, you can see on the screen, recovery@takeactiontoday.net. Tell them, email them, tell them, I've got a place, I want to donate a place, or I just want to give some money in the future to a place, or you have a home, you're fixing to sell it, and you don't have any kids, donate the money and give it to one of our foundations and designate it to that future recovery house.
Absolutely.
There are people out there that can make those kind of gifts. They have nobody to leave their legacy to. Leave a legacy that would actually change Southern Illinois.
And if I could also throw out there that, there are a lot of people who don't have the education or the understanding exactly. Sometimes people still think it's a moral issue. Why can't they just stop, And
I hear that all the time.
Exactly. So, but I'd like to say to the people who may still feel that way, if you still feel that way, give me a call and I'll make an appointment with you. But
yes.
Just try to remember that someone who is addicted to drugs or homeless or has mental health issues or whatever, they are someone's mom, wife, father, brother, child. Please, if you can only see it from that point.
Yeah, let me say this. A lot of times I told people back early in my ministry, they're really having behavioral difficult kids, something like this. I said, one of the best things you can do maybe is encourage them to go in the military. The military has a way of stripping you down and putting you back together. And then you create a brotherhood or sisterhood and a community. And that was kind of what we told people. You need to go to the military. But I hate to tell you, the people that think, well, they just need to quit doing drugs. They went to the military, and the military changed them because they were stripped down and put back together. You know what I'm saying? And so most of us, even that came from right world, we were put through, the concrete was poured into us by family before us. Yeah. Some people didn't get that. Right. And you've got to go back in. I hate to tell you, right now, Beth and I are paying a fortune because of my mom's condo. They have a bunch of damage because they didn't build the footings right in Florida, and things are falling in. And so we're having to spend $1.5 million or something like that.
We're not.
Well, the six condos, $1.5, $233 a piece to fix what they didn't do right because there's no footing or foundation, right? Some people didn't have that foundation. And if you don't have it, it's got to be put in. And a recovery house is a place where you can put in what maybe they didn't get. You call it hard work. It's hard work because you saw somebody work hard. We want to put a place where people can learn to work hard again. Working hard is not something you're born with. It's a social behavior that's developed. And maybe they got to get free of a substance, yes, but in an environment where that's lifted up. So if you're out there, it's a big ask, but there may be somebody out there that goes, I'd like to help with that. I would like to donate this. We have an Edward Jones account. You can transfer stock to the Hans Hope Foundation, and I'll make sure that it gets to Take Action Today here in House of Hope to build that recovery center. We are believing God after the clinic. Very soon, the recovery center's next, but we're waiting on you. Waiting on you out there to help us. Somebody in Southern Illinois has got a place for us.
Yes, they do.
God is ready for us because
Amen.
You've been patient going back upstream to fix the problem. And so right now, I just want to believe God's going to let us get in the stream, come down, and see that recovery house become a reality, because I think that's the start to people having a new pathway. Yeah. And it's exciting. You guys have been a blessing. We're not done with this series. We're going to be back in part 4 with Dan and Rebecca. This won't be the last time you hear from these guys at all, but it's been great to have you guys on the show, Mike.
Thank you for having us.
Crystal, wonderful job so much. And thank you for Donna taking care of us today. We've been long on all episodes, but these have been some of the...
Bring Donna back.
Yeah, bring Donna back right there on thedoc.org. That is our website. Go there, find out how to link up to us, and info@onthedoc.org is there. Check out the show description. I'll have links to take Take Action Today and how to reach out to them, you can always email us there. We'll get you connected and watch all these shows. They're fantastic. Go to YouTube to watch those in archive, Spotify and iTunes, Google Play, Facebook, Roku, Rumble, and Sermonette, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Telegram, and Getter are our social media partners. Talk to us about that. If you want to give that gift, reach out there, but email us. We don't want to miss that. And check that out. Subscribe, hit like, notify. And you can go to my Patreon. There's 4 ways to be a partner of this program, and if you've enjoyed it. And there's 3 ways you can become a sponsor of this program. And don't forget slnt.com. Get that Faraday bag so the Chinese will quit listening to your phone and sending you stuff you don't want. People are stealing your stuff and your information. I told the whole story in the first episode. I told the whole first episode in this. Yeah, Beth is one that caused this. She got the first notice about J.G. Wentworth. And now my Faraday bag is coming, Beth. slnt.com, promo code OTD. Go check that out, and we get some money. You get a big discount, and you help our show out that way as well. If you don't have a church home, come to Community Faith Church, 10 o'clock on Sundays, 6:30 on Wednesdays in Marion. Where do you guys go to church at?
I live in Johnson County.
In Johnson County.
Yeah, I'm at Shawnee Worship Center.
There you go. Shawnee Worship
Yeah,
Center.
we've been going to Redemption just in between West Frankfort and Johnson's.
There you go. There's 2 churches right there. Reach out to these guys. They'll get you in a place too. We just want you to get in a church where the gospel's being preached, and we want you to get on a pathway where God can be glorified in your life. So you've been on the dock here with Pastor Troy, Mother Beth. Been good to have you back in studio.
With great hair.
Yeah, with great hair, of course. Mike, a pleasure. Crystal, thank you so much, Donna. And we look forward to seeing everybody back for part 4. It's going to be incredible. We hope you're enjoying this. Pass it out. Share it with everybody else. Be a part. And if you're that person out there that has that place, that property, that thing that can help us make that recovery dream come true, just do it. And if not, go to takeactiontoday.net and make a donation anyway. And we'll see you soon. I'm Pastor Troy, and we're on the dock.